Thank you. Just to reiterate who the ACCA are, we're the global body for professional accountants. We've got 178,000 members and almost 500,000 students, so trainees basically studying to become members in about 180 countries. As said, I look after social media for ACCA, and my presentation today is going to look at a recent initiative we've done at ACCA, which effectively slows down social. I don't know whether any of you share that kind of freneticism sometimes about get something out. And it's really looking at how we started to ensure value from member engagement, so creating more meaningful engagement and kind of getting that value from member engagement. So at the beginning of the year, we looked at our social media activity because as a business, we were changing our strategy and adopting a aggressive growth strategy. So it was an opportune time to have a look at social. And we were busy. We were creating content. We were churning it out on a weekly, daily, sometimes hourly basis. And we just seemed to be intent on pushing out content across lots of platforms. We've got 38 Facebook pages, 25 Twitter feeds, 50 LinkedIn groups, a Google Plus page, a couple of WeChat accounts, a Spotify playlist and an Insta page. Note to self, I might need to do an audit and kind of consolidate some of that. And it felt we were like sort of social media hamsters on our wheels, desperate to get our content out there. But underneath all this industry, were we really getting in sort of meaningful engagement, or was it likes for likes' sake? Was our audience, was our membership on board with us? If we were looking at our net promoter scores, which is something our board is quite interested in at the moment, they weren't that high, and growth as a business was flattening anyway. And I wanted to be sure that all this industry around creating content for social media was actually the right thing to do, and were we getting the sort of deriving the right value from our social activity. So I decided to have a look at what we were doing on social and what we might be able to do differently. And we appointed an agency called ICUC to undertake some research, and we ran a whole series of internal workshops to assess where we could on social media have a big impact on the rest of the business and obviously our membership. So we looked at our proposition, we tried to define what it is we really do for our customers, what do we offer our members. For those of you who don't know, we provide a professional qualification for accountants. It's very difficult, it takes a long time. So we came to the conclusion that we were an enabler to a professional career in accountancy and finance. We were enabler, if you like, to our members' future, and we create opportunities that can open up our members' future. And in order to open up their future, we were going to focus on uniting that network, uniting that membership body through social media. And we believed that by uniting that membership network and building stronger social connections between people, we could ultimately support retention and advocacy and the acquisition of new members. And the way I sold it to the board was that I think that we could improve those net promoter scores, so improve customer satisfaction and therefore help with advocacy and ultimately growth of the membership body. So to build these stronger connections, we needed to look at using existing and current content, but we felt that it needed to just be packaged in a slightly different way. And looking at our past social performance, we knew that some of our content, and I think this is probably the case with many of us, was a bit self-serving and sort of promoting and broadcasting all that we thought that was important. And often, certainly our research showed that that stuff gets ignored. So we wanted to step up and play a different role, a more active role, and therefore looking at repackaging our content in a way that provided experiences to our membership and our communities, and content that was of value to them, not just to ACCA. And that's it in a nutshell. I got this off of the internet. I'll give you you've got it on your slides. And obviously, we want to be in the bottom right corner. How can we help you become more awesome? So we started making some, taking some practical steps to change how we produced social content. And the first step was to look at editorial ideas that we felt would help guide and repurpose the content that we created as a professional body. The first one we term, and this might seem a bit kind of fluffy to begin with, but once you start sort of applying it to the day-to-day social media content creation streams, you can see it working quite effectively. So we looked at content that promotes shared identity and purpose. We were interested in developing content that created discussion and participation between peers. That's sometimes a bit of a holy grail, I think, sometimes in professional services with members. How do we actually get that conversation going? And then finally, this is something that our research brought up, is that people like content that's going to make them look clever, and it's going to make them be able to advance their careers in the circles within which they're operating. So those were our three sort of editorial ideas. The second step was to implement a formal editorial process for us and to produce a proper timetable for that content creation, and this part of slowing down social to drive more meaningful engagement. And as a team, we adopted a much more magazine editorial approach to content. So we started slowing down those hamster wheels and looked at creating content that we thought was going to resonate with our audience. And almost immediately, we started to see results, which was great. On the first slide, we've got 99% organic reach on Facebook. We don't pay for paid social media content. We don't boost any of our posts. Our agency tell us, well, they would, wouldn't they? That it's unusual to have such high organic reach levels. So we take that as that we're serving content that is resonating with our members. And on this next slide is about user-generated content. I've been talking about wanting user-generated content probably for the last 5 years without much success, but a couple of months ago we actually got it, and it was really, really nice to see to play out. ACCA have partnered with the University of London to offer a master's programme to sort of dovetail with our qualification, and we developed a campaign called #Mastered. And it was, rather than talking about the qualification and what people might get out from it, to kind of extend that beyond to their social lives and what they might have mastered recently. And we had some great examples. I think you can probably see on the handouts. So again, another example of creating meaningful engagement with members. So I spoke about the editorial approach. We also have an international network of offices, 40 plus. So as a central social media team, we looked at creating assets and content that would go alongside our content calendars that we produced 2 months in advance, so that our offices as well could slow down their social hamster wheels and take time to create content that aligned to our editorial ideas, and therefore hope that they too would be getting the engagement, the valuable engagement that we're all after. What's interesting is that a lot of people in our offices don't have social media as a full-time job. They probably do it as sort of 5 or 10% of their time. And they really benefited from these image banks and asset creations and a content calendar. So that was the second step. And then the third step, which I think is particularly important, is around community management. We, and I think this will deliver more meaningful engagement, we employ 2 community managers from our external agency. It's only 2 hours a day. The costs are fairly nominal, I would say. And they engage with our communities and develop dialogue and develop relationships with users. It's not technical queries, it's not kind of membership specific stuff, accountancy related things. It's about just making sure that our users, if they talk to us, they know somebody's there and listening and can respond. And I thought this example was quite funny. Hopefully you can read it. We're also now looking at implementing a surprise and delight programme for our Facebook community, which is simply to encourage kind of advocacy and another way of encouraging engagement. And so we simply contact users, and if somebody's said something or done something nice within the community, we just send them out as a small gift. So we're just starting that. So these new practical steps, this new way of doing social, is it working? Can I prove the value? I think so. In the last 4 months, our sentiment scores have improved, and we now get about 96% positive sentiment score on our content. We've seen our global communities grow by about 7%, but communities in some of our markets have grown massively, some by more than 50%. And I do put that down to our focus, if you like, on developing content that we really do believe is going to resonate and get that engagement going. My 2 favourite examples that aren't on my slides are more recently around getting that decent engagement. And I'd be interested to know if anybody saw it. We did a post on Facebook recently, I think it was a week and a half ago. It was International Accountants Day, would you believe? We celebrate such things. And in one post, it was an organic post, we reached over 2.7 million people. Now, that is viral in our world. It was unprecedented in our history to get that type of reach for no cost. And we've entered social circles beyond the accounting and finance kind of industry, and we started seeing this post cropping up in education circles and all sorts of things. So in terms of acquisition, not just in terms of member engagement, that has potential for new people to see us, to see what we're talking about, and perhaps perk some interest. The second engagement example that I had last week was on our LinkedIn company page, and I think James said that that was kind of their fastest growing account, and we've seen a lot of growth in it as well. But actually 6 members came onto the feed and actually said, "What are you doing? You're doing something differently. We like this content, please keep it up." So that was sort of great to hear. Over the next 6 months, I think we hope to continue this trend of more meaningful engagement and the value of our new social media direction. So maybe I'll come back next year and we'll have even more member engagement. Thank you.